Sandy knows the value of learning and considers herself a lifelong learner. In this episode, Sandy shares her experience learning a language and being immersed in a new culture through the Explore program. Now, I myself am also an alumni of this program and speak highly, highly of it to so many Canadians who want to get out and learn another language from this country, either French or English. They have incredible programs, and the depth at which you can get immersed in a culture is absolutely outstanding. So I highly recommend you check out the Explore program and listen to Sandy's experience. Welcome to the Gap Year podcast, where we explore the who, what, where, when, and why of gap years. It's real people sharing their stories, ideas, and experts diving deep into how you can make the right decisions in order to have a meaningful gap year. This is the place to be no matter where you are on your gap year journey. I'm Michelle Dittmer, your resident gap year expert. Let's jump right in. Hey there, and welcome to the Gap Year podcast. My name is Michelle Dittmer, and I am your host and Gap Year expert. On today's show, Sandy Chow is with us, and she is going to share a little bit about her journey. Now, Sandy has done amazing things on her gap year and has continued to be a lifelong learner. So you'll definitely want to stick out and hear a little bit more of Sandy's story. So, Sandy, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Sandy Chow.
Perfect. And Sandy, what brought you to the decision to take a gap year? Tell me about that part of your journey?
This is a great question. So, in my last year of undergrad, I'm like trying to find out what is my next step. And I've noticed that there are so many things that I am interested in, and I'm not sure if I should jump right into grad school right away or I should go into the workforce and basically just living out the regular lifestyle. And there's just so many decisions to consider. So I thought, okay, this is the time where I can explore a little bit to find out some of the different options that's out there for me, to find out like what are my likes, what are my dislikes, and also meeting some new friends. So I'm just really appreciating that this is like a time where I can explore a little bit to get to know myself and know the world around me.
I think that's amazing. And I think a lot of people, when they think of the concept of a gap year, they think of that European version, which is like directly after high school before going into post secondary. And I want everybody, all of the listeners, to know that that's not the only time that you can take that gap year. So, folks like Sandy, they take it after graduating from their undergraduate. We see people taking it mid post secondary as well. So, really, it's any time in your life that you feel you need to just take a breath, to get some new perspective, to try something different before moving along with the status quo. So I think that was really wise of you to come out of your undergraduate and like wise beyond your years and say, listen, I want to really figure out what I'm all about, and I want to meet new people, and I want to do things differently. So huge kudos to you for making that decision to take that gap year at that point in your life. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I really appreciate that experience because during that gap year, my parents really supported me in terms of like, hey, Sandy, it's actually a good opportunity for you to maybe try to take on an internship abroad. So I had a chance to work in Taiwan to do like a short summer internship. And I also had a chance to volunteer at different community organizations and even participate in Explore and Odyssey program as well in those times of my gap year. So I really appreciate how my parents and close friend really supported me during this time and making this decision as well.
I know a lot of people taking gap years, they're scared of what their parents and their peers are going to think because there is a narrative that we create that's been created for us around what order in life you're supposed to do things and what comes next. And it's so nice to hear that you had the support of people around you because that can make a world of difference to know that people are behind you and they've got your back and they're helping you have that journey and be on a path of self-discovery, and that they as well see the benefits in what you're doing. So then when you set out for this, did you have any specific goals that you wanted to really achieve? Were there things, did you sit down and write your own goals, or did they kind of emerge organically over the course of your gap year?
This is another great question. So, for my goals during the gap year, I told myself that, okay, take some time to learn French because I've basically always wanted to learn another language. And French is also a second official language in Canada. And I thought, wow, this is a great time to dive into, while it's supported within the school program, and also having a chance to meet friends through the common interests. So that is my main goal, first, coming across like this opportunity I heard from the Explore program. So I take that on. The other goal that I had was to really step outside of my comfort zone to explore a little bit of the new things outside of school, such as participating in different French festivals, different volunteer work, and just kind of exploring all of the new things around me. So I would say like definitely learning French, meeting new friends, discovering myself. These three are my main big goals during my gap year.
I think that's incredible. And I think a lot of people have that goal and they think that after grade 12 that we've had this education and we've had French classes all throughout that we should have a better understanding of the French language. And I think that really truly the best way to learn a language is to be fully immersed in that language and to be able to live it, not just in a class where you're conjugating verbs or you're talking about vocabulary, but when you're out in the street and you want to order that coffee or you want to purchase something from that store or you want to chat with that cute guy who's walking down the boardwalk, whatever that is, that full immersion experience can really bring out language learning. So I'm curious a little bit about how did that full immersion happen through the Explore program? Was that a keystone to what you participated in?
That's right. So I had the opportunity to hear about the Explore program actually through my high school French teacher. So my French teacher was telling everyone, hey, if you guys are interested in learning more French and even living in like a new place, we know that the government is providing this awesome Explore program where there will be like host family that's welcoming you to their environment and basically just stepping outside of your comfort zone for the first time to live out this French experience. So I would say that in terms of how I got to know this program and also really taking the step to put in that simple application and hearing it back and making that big step was also a logistic side of things that I worked through, and it was really helpful to hear some of the previous people who also share their testimony in terms of like how they have decided or how their experience at Explore went. That was also really helpful for me to get to know, okay, these are some of the awesome programs that I can really consider and take basically the step into exploring this field. So that's what I did in terms of going through the Explore program.
Yeah, I think that's really, you brought up a couple of things that really stood out for me. Number one is that application process. So whatever program you're looking into, and I'll link to the Explore program in the show notes for this episode because they do a really good job about it. But really doing your research and finding what opportunities are out there. And this is an incredible organization, an incredible program that is also supported by our government, which allows us to take this program at such a reduced cost to what it would cost to do a full immersion program in another country. And this is something that's part of our culture here. This is something that our government invests in, and it's a great thing for our citizens to be bilingual and to learn a new culture. So, number one, knowing what opportunities are out there, and knowing which ones are accessible to us, either from just a timing perspective or from a financial perspective, but also doing your research in terms of talking to other past participants to really understand what the experience is like. Because it's one thing to have somebody who works for that organization tell you what it's all about, and it's something completely different to talk to somebody like Sandy who's been through the program and can give a really honest opinion. So it's really nice to hear that the Explore program was so transparent and so helpful on that journey, because a lot of people that I talk to are nervous about having too much open or free time, that working with an organization like the Official Languages programs, it gives them that structure and that support in order to have really meaningful experiences where they can really connect and have some sort of structure that's very different than a classroom structure.
That's right. I really agree with that. And just that lived experience that you have touched upon, I really want to say that really changed my way of looking at things in terms of like how the other side of the province like basically do their language, their everyday life, even their outdoor activity are also slightly different. So that's a really great experience that opened my eyes to like even new hobbies and basically live out kind of that Quebec winter experience as well. Those French festivals, just a lot of different new experience that come upon really fascinated me and also brought me to some new restaurants where I discover, wow, the other side of Canada have one of the best cabinet souk and also a fun festival to participate in. So just all of the fun things that also come along in this learning process and putting myself out there really opened up my eyes to a lot more new things as well.
And I think that cultural immersion piece is so interesting because a lot of people are really hungry for that. They want to see how other people live. And for some reason, we always think outside of our borders and we think, oh, what would it be like to go and visit somebody in Europe? Or what would it be like to go and visit somebody in Japan? When inside the walls of our own country, we have all of these incredibly diverse cultures that exist right here in Canada. And things like the Explore program are great ways to get involved and to realize how rich that culture is and how far back it goes. We're a very young country as like compared to a lot of the rest of the world, but we still have some incredibly unique pieces to us. And it goes beyond beavers and poutine. But the whole Quebecois culture is so different that having that lived experience and getting out of your comfort zone, not only from a language perspective, but also realizing how diverse our country is, can really lead to some deeper understanding about the complexities of our political climate, of the provincial borders that we have, of language issues, of the history of the country, looking at the French and the English when they came came over from England and what that did with our indigenous people. Like there is so much robustness to understanding who Canadians are and what the journey we've all been on together. And that in conjunction with the language learning just makes it just like a mind-blowing experience where you realize how lucky we are to live in such a country rich in diversity and rich in our very own culture.
Yeah, Michelle, I really appreciate you put it so well together. And that was what I have did through the Explore program. I love it so much that I did it twice in a row. And also I had the chance to participate in the Odyssey program because I was like, oh my goodness, Explore is so fun. How can I get more of this? And really live that French experience to continue with all of these lifelong learning and also continue to challenge myself to a better version of kind of the next level. So I just appreciate how you have put it so well together, all of these advantages that can brought upon to an individual who's considering a gap year and looking for themselves in terms of like what works and what doesn't work for them.
Yeah. And I think that self exploration piece can be so valuable. Often in life, we're on this fast track. We got to go fast and we got to achieve things. And sometimes we can lose ourselves in the process, or we can lose our curiosity, or we can lose our sense of exploration and adventure. And by taking a gap year, you really can gain that back and you can learn so much about yourself. So I'm curious on your gap year, what are some of the concrete, I'm going to use air quotes here, adulting skills, or the things that gave you a little bit of clarity in the direction you wanted to take your life? What are some of those things that came about because you took a gap year?
That's another great question. So, in terms of adulting, I feel like this is like a process that everyone is going through. And in terms of some of the concrete things that I have gained from this gap year, it's really knowing how to listen, how to communicate, and how to learn and unlearn. I say this just because in Quebec, I was basically being put into an environment where French is not my first language, and I have to communicate with my whole entire body language, trying to get my message across, and just even like a smile on a person's face that really help all of us to just connect in that same room, even though I don't fully speak French to like a native level. So I found that through the process of this lived experience really helped me to um, listen. I mean, listening in terms of not just using our ears, but using also our hearts to feel what the environment is also saying around us and how you are expressing yourself in terms of what are the things that you like to get the message across. And I would say learn and unlearn just because we always come with our own personal assumptions of things, and a lot of things have been kind of in input it in our previous, I would say, family, friends, schooling, community. That is one type of thinking and mindset. But when we enter another type of environment, that really helped me to unlearn some of the things that, oh, actually, the same exact task can be also done another way. So that really helped me to really gain some of these practices and slowly become the nutrients for me to grow into an adult. So, all of these adulting skills really help me to navigate a little bit more in terms of the people I come across to. Different situation and also the circumstances that come up in terms of like, oh, like in this situation, how can I better problem solve, and how can I also learn from the things that I am learning? I would say an example to a concrete example to share is like the driving. There's a situation where In Ontario, while I was driving on the red light, we're not able to turn right. But in Quebec, there are some situations where you cannot turn right on red, or you cannot. Basically, there are a little bit of a difference in terms of the traffic type of rules, but with listening and with learning and also observing, I would say, like, even with that small example of what I have went through really helped me to see, even though in the same country, sometimes the the experience help us to find out a little bit more of the new things that we are not used to before. And these are some of the adulting skills in terms of like the things that we have to get our everyday life sorted out, like driving, going to schooling, or doing some kind of work that we do. All of the different situation and people that we come across all contribute to help us to grow into our adulthood. So I'd say hopefully this help you to understand a little bit better in terms of how these concrete example can be a great nutrient to our adult life.
Yeah, 100%. And all of those things that you mentioned can be understood by other people. And it's even being studied. And we're looking, if I look at some of the data that's coming around out around what employers are looking for when they're hiring people, you're touching on some of those key skills that they're identifying are missing in a lot of recent graduates. So they have fancy names when we look at some of the reports that are written, things like global competencies and intercultural communication are some of the top ones that they're saying are lacking, and basic communication skills. And all of those things that you mentioned fall under those categories. And by taking that time to do something different and to develop this skill set, you're actually making yourself not only a happier person because you have these additional skills that are going to make you a stronger person in your personal life, but it's also going to positively impact you in your professional life because you're going to be able to take those things and use them when you're talking in a job application or in an interview situation. Then those are things that are going to set you apart from your peers who maybe only have an academic background. You've really been able to capture that in these things that you really said you were able to pull out: the listening, the communicating, the learning and unlearning. And I really like that little bit about listening with your hearts and your whole body, because there's so much more than just the words that we are sharing. And in a world of social media, in a world of post-pandemic world where we've all been behind these masks and been asked to stay apart, that ability to be human and to connect with each other, not only through our words, but through our body language and the way that we're showing up in the interactions we're having with other people, is such a welcome piece of humanity. And to be able to strengthen that is only going to put you ahead in life as an adult, and as an employee, as a productive member of society, or as a student. Whatever your next phase is, acquiring those skills is really going to push you to become a stronger person, which is so wonderful. Now, if you were to go back and look at yourself, maybe right after your undergrad and you were a little bit unsure of next steps, or maybe even back to when you were in grade 12, what advice would you give yourself? So now that you have all this knowledge under your hat, if you could go back and tell yourself something, what would you say to yourself?
Yeah, so if I do have a time machine to rewind the time and go back to grade 12 self, I would tell myself, take time to know myself, be prepared for the life changes that's going to come upon me, and also in terms of be flexible with different changes that is coming, just because nowadays our society is moving so fast and everything is really changing on a daily basis. And there's just a lot of things to keep up. But also be comfortable with this kind of uncomfortable situation. And it really takes time to really grow into um, like like your adulthood. An example that I want to share is that if you look at a caterpillar, even the caterpillar do need some time to stay in their little shelter and transform later on into like a beautiful butterfly. And even us as human, we are also growing in this process. So I would say like it really helps to give yourself that enough time to grow and also to reflect upon some of the experiences that you have been through, so that you get to work out that uh, like what works in the past and what are some of the things that you like and dislike. All of those information will be able to help into something that one can kind of use in this growing process. So these are my advice that I will definitely provide to my grade 12 self if I have a time machine.
Sandy, you've definitely emerged from your cocoon as a beautiful butterfly, equipped with so much more knowledge about yourself and about the world. And I am so grateful that you've shared all of this wisdom with all of the listeners today. I am so glad that you were able to participate in these official language programs through Explore Twice and through Odyssey. And we are going to link to those in the show notes. So if you do want that transformational experience, if you do want to learn a little bit more about the culture within Canada, if you do want to improve your French language skills, definitely check out those links below. So, Sandy, if people wanted to follow along on your journey, is there somewhere that they could follow you or get in touch?
Yeah, for sure. You can definitely find me on LinkedIn. And basically, you can also feel free to send me your questions. I'll do my best to answer your question to me via LinkedIn message chat box or even my email address. Feel free to also find me through these contact way. So I
Um,
really appreciate that we have this opportunity to have a wonderful chat.
Wonderful. Thank you for being so generous with that. And we will link to that in the show notes as well. So if you do have questions for Sandy and her experience, you can follow up with her there. So again, Sandy, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing all of your experiences.
Thank you so much for having me.